Namaste, aloha. My name is Janapati Das and welcome. I'm in a new house here now. I feel like I'm in a sauna. Actually, it seems like this sort of 70s redwood. Makes me seem like I'm in a sauna. Please accept my respects. We're going to start with another Krishna book reading tonight. And so please accept my humble obeisances, and let me offer my most humble obeisances to my Guru Dev and my spiritual grandfather also. Respectfully, Jagat Guru Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada and His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who have so kindly translated the Krishna book that we're reading from. And I'd like to read or quote Lord Chaitanya's third prayer tonight in honor of us starting with Kirtan. One should chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind, feeling oneself to be lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than the tree, and devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others, and never expecting respect in return. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. And with that, we will begin with some hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. Thank you. Please sing along. Mate Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are continuing on with our stories as the plot gets more and more exciting. We had been reading about Krishna and Balaram. Krishna had left of course, after all of his situation with King Muchukuna, and King Muchukuna had come out and realized that Kali Yuga had to come about because everything was so much shorter, people and trees. And of course, the status of life is immoral and full of anxiety. He decided it was best not to stick around too much longer, and he went off to the forest to meditate, right? The Badikrashram, which is where actually Lord Shiva's ashram is there. I think Lord Shiva's there, Narayan, and up in the Himalayas, still exists there. Many great sages are still there up in the Himalayas, and Lord Shiva and many others. And of course, Krishna and Balaram decided to not engage in battle with Jartsanda again, but to actually leave the battlefield, thinking that they were frightened of his power. Jartsanda followed them and just looked for them for a very long time, but couldn't find them. Decided to they had gone up a very high mountain, right? And the mountain, Jartsanda set it on fire and let it burn up. So Balaram and Krishna jumped off, and he thought, oh, Krishna and Balaram's burned, so he went home thinking his task was complete. And that's where we left off. Following this, Sri Balaram married Revati, daughter of King Raivata, ruler of the Anarta province. This is explained in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. After the marriage of Baladev, Krishna married Rukmini. Rukmini was the daughter of King Bhishmaka, ruler of the province known as Vidarbha. Just as Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, Vasudeva Rukmini is a supreme goddess of fortune, Mahalakshmi. According to the authority of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the expansion of Krishna and Sri Radharani is simultaneous. Krishna expands himself into various Vishnu Tattva forms, and Srimati Radharani expands herself into various Shakti Tattva forms by her internal potency as multi-forms of the goddess of fortune. According to Vedic convention, there are 8 kinds of marriages. In the first-class marriage system, the parents of the bride and bridegroom arrange the marriage date. Then in royal style, the bridegroom goes to the house of the bride, and in the presence of brahmanas, priests, and relatives, the bride is given in charity to the bridegroom. So the Vedic system of marriage is extremely important because they understand that there are these 2 living entities who are coming together to help each other and their children as well come back to Krishna and to serve Krishna. And so it's a very serious thing to do when you get married. And so the Vedic system was, very set up in many different ways. A lot of times astrology charts were read to make sure good matches were happening. It wasn't like this sort of willy-nilly, like, let me find this guy, let me find this girl, or let me find, or even gay marriages or whatever. It was just like man and a woman, and it was a spiritual aspect. So, this sort of thing of like, well, let me have a boyfriend for a while and then get married, and then, oh, well, I don't really like that boyfriend because he doesn't give me this, and this, or I don't like that wife because of that, and let me just divorce and go on and have somebody else. No, Vedic marriages generally were seen very seriously and were meant to stay for the rest of their life with one person. And so this system in Kali Yuga, of course, is gone and whatnot. But as a devotee of Krishna, you can understand that when you get married, that you're not in it for your own personal sense gratification, but to help this other person come to Krishna. And the same for the person that you marry, is they have to help you and help the children learn about Krishna, come to Krishna, serve Krishna. Krishna is always the center. So besides this, there are other systems such as Gandharva and Rakshasa marriages. That's interesting. Rukmini was married to Krishna in the Rakshasa, not the demons, Rakshasa was a different kind of style. In the Rakshasa style because she was kidnapped by him in the presence of his many rivals like Shishapala, Jarasandha, Shalva, and others. While Rukmini was being given in charity to Shishapala, she was snatched from the marriage arena by Krishna, exactly as Garuda snatched the pot of nectar from the demons. Rukmini, the only daughter of King Bhishmaka, was exquisitely beautiful. She was known as Ruchira Nana, which means one who has a beautiful face expanding like a lotus flower. Devotees of Krishna are always anxious to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord. His activities of fighting, kidnapping, and running away from the battlefield are all transcendental, being on the absolute platform, and devotees take a transcendental interest in hearing of them. So there's nothing in the Krishna book that's just mundane. Everything is transcendental. All events are transcendental events because they're either about Krishna or related indirectly to Krishna. The pure devotee does not make the distinction that some activities of the Lord should be heard and others should be avoided. There is, however, a class of so-called devotees known as Prakrita Sahajiya, who are very interested in hearing about Krishna's Rasa Leela with the gopis, but not about his fighting activities with the enemies. They do not know that his bellicose activities and his friendly activities with gopis are equally transcendental, being on the absolute platform. The transcendental pastimes of Krishna described in the Srimad Bhagavatam are relished by pure devotees through submissive oral reception. They do not reject even a drop. So these Prakrita Sahajiya, my own Gurudev and Bhaktivedanta Swami and many others have spoken about, and they were Bhaktivinoda Thakur as well was actively engaged in trying to stop these rascals because they would do very many offensive things because they saw the rasa dance as a mundane activity and not a spiritual activity that what it was. So they would actually like to reenact the Rasa Leela dance by dancing with young girls and having sexual relations with young girls, or even dressing up themselves and having homosexual sex with each other, and so many horrible things. And so there are still some of these people out there, but they're actually the greatest offenders because they don't understand that the Rasa Leela dance is not a sexual or even a drop of mundane activity. It was actually a spiritual activity between Krishna and the jivatmas of the gopis. The story. Sorry, I went back there. Okay, the story of Krishna's marriage with Rukmini, now this is very exciting, is described as follows. The king of Vidarbha, Maharaj Bhishmaka, was a very qualified and devoted prince. He had 5 sons and only 1 daughter. The first son was known as Rukmi, the second Rukmarata, the third Rukmabahu, the fourth and youngest Rukmakesha, and the fifth Rukmamali. The brothers had 1 young sister, Rukmini. She was beautiful and chaste and was meant to be married to Lord Krishna. So that's something even though it was very common in that time for princes to come and steal brides, and there would be a battle, and would understood between the warriors that the greatest warrior who won, if a prince was destined to marry a princess, and another prince came and defeated it, then he could take the princess. So, but here Rukmini was, as we'll hear in the story, was very much interested in being taken by Krishna and didn't want to marry Shishapala. Many saintly persons and sages like Narada Muni and others used to visit the palace of King Bhishmaka. Naturally, Rukmini had a chance to talk with them, and in this way she obtained information about Krishna. So, of course, this is the best way for us to learn about spiritual or transcendental information. It's through the great devotees, the great lovers or swan-like devotees of Krishna who have the information because they've received it from another devotee. And here, Rukmini Devi came into contact with great devotees, great saints, including Narada Muni and others. So naturally, Rukmini had a chance to talk with him. In this way, she obtained information about Krishna. She was informed about the 6 opulences of Krishna, and simply by hearing about him, she desired to surrender herself to his lotus feet and become his wife. So the 6 opulences, of course, we have in many, some people are very intelligent, some people have wealth, or maybe they may not be very beautiful. And so we have, the wealth, we have intelligence, we have beauty, we have renunciation, we have strength, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. Did I say renunciation? So it's escaping me, but there is a 6th one, and if you remember, you can put it down in the comments. And so, these kinds of different opulences Krishna has in full, right? Krishna had also learned about Rukmini. She was a reservoir of all transcendental qualities: intelligence, liberal-mindedness, exquisite beauty, and righteous behavior. Krishna therefore decided that she was fit to be his wife. All of the family members and relatives of King Bhishmakas decided that Rukmini should be given to marriage to Krishna. However, her elder brother Rukmini, despite the desires of the others, arranged for her marriage with Shishupala, a determined enemy of Krishna. When the black-eyed, beautiful Rukmini heard the settlement, she immediately became very morose. However, being a king's daughter, she understood political diplomacy and decided that there was no use in simply being morose. Some steps should be taken immediately. After some deliberation, she decided to send a message to Krishna so that she might not be deceived. She selected a qualified Brahmana as her messenger. Such a qualified Brahmana is always truthful and is a devotee of Vishnu. So there of course were many Brahmanas at that time who were not really qualified Brahmanas. And when we say qualified Brahmanas, it has to be a pure devotee of Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu. And she selected him because she knew that Krishna was the same as Lord Vishnu and was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So she, of course, trusted her note with the Brahmana. Now, there may be many Brahmanas who were supported by the king and by the, maybe Rukmini or whatnot, or loyal to the kingdom or whatever, not to Krishna, and maybe would have turned that note over to the king or to Rukmini, and then everything would have been spoiled. But of course, Rukmini had enough intelligence to know a pure devotee to give her note to give to Krishna. Without delay, the Brahmana was sent to Dwarka. Reaching the gate of Dwarka, the Brahmana informed the doorkeeper of his arrival, and the doorkeeper led to the place where Krishna was sitting on a golden throne. Since the Brahmana had the opportunity of being Rukmini's messenger, he was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is the original cause of all causes. A Brahmana is a spiritual teacher of all the social divisions. Lord Sri Krishna, in order to teach everyone the Vedic etiquette of how to respect a Brahmana, immediately got up and offered him his throne. When the Brahmana was seated on the golden throne, Lord Sri Krishna began to worship him exactly in the manner in which the demigods worship Krishna. In this way, he taught everyone that worshiping his devotee is more valuable than worshiping himself. So even a pure devotee understands that, of course, Krishna also understands the etiquette and is teaching people to be able to show devotees respect and honor. Even though you yourself may be an elevated devotee, you would never ever say, I'm not going to show respect to that person. In due time, the Brahmana took his bath. And it's important to know, because a lot of times we don't really know who's a pure devotee, so we should show respect to everyone. It doesn't mean that, you go to a tiger and, you're a pure soul, so I'm going to, put this garland on you, probably eat you, right? Because it's nature of a tiger. But you do offer respect from a distance. Sometimes people are very offensive, but you do offer respect to them, sometimes from a distance. In due time, the Brahmana took his bath, accepted his meals, and took to rest on a bedstead completely bedecked with soft silk. As he was resting, Lord Sri Krishna silently approached and with great respect put the Brahmana's legs on his lap and began to massage them. In this way, Krishna appeared before the Brahmana and said, "My dear Brahmana, I hope that you are executing the religious principles without any difficulty, and that your mind is always in a peaceful condition." Different classes of people in the social system are engaged in various professions, and when one inquires as to the well-being of a particular person, it must be done on the basis of that person's occupation. Therefore, when one inquires as to the welfare of the Brahmana, the question should be worded according to his condition of life so as not to disturb him. A peaceful mind is the basis for becoming truthful, clean, equiposed, self-controlled, and tolerant. Thus, by attaining knowledge and knowing its practical application in life, one becomes convinced about the absolute truth. The Brahmana knew to be the supreme person, Krishna to be, let me start that sentence again. The Brahmana knew Krishna to be the supreme personality of God and still he accepted the respectful service of the Lord on the grounds of Vedic social convention, which Krishna set up. So he understood, this pure devotee understood the Vedic etiquette. So he wasn't like, oh no, don't worship me. He understood that as a devotee, and the pure devotee, the spiritual master understands the social etiquette of what's expected by Krishna for the pure devotee. So if you're approaching your spiritual master or devotees, pure devotees, you show your respect to them. You offer service to them. You are humble before them, and you show them all respect because that is what is expected from you. Now, it's not like the pure devotee would be like, oh, this is wonderful, I get all this praise. No, the pure devotee is feeling lower than the straw on the street, so doesn't feel like he deserves any of the praise that he's getting, but he does it, he tolerates it because Krishna wants him to receive that praise, and he understands that it's an offering to Krishna from him to accept the praise. So it's a very wonderful system. There's not a tinge of enviousness or lust in the spiritual master at all. The Brahmana knew Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead. Belonging to the Kshatriya division of the social system and being a young boy, it was his duty to show respect to such a Brahmana. Lord Krishna continued, "O best of the Brahmanas, you should always remain satisfied, because if a Brahmana is always self-satisfied, he will not deviate from his prescribed duties, and simply by sticking to one's prescribed duties, everyone, especially the Brahmanas, can attain the highest perfection of all desires. Even if a person is as opulent as the king of heaven, Indra, if he is not satisfied, he inevitably has to transmigrate from one planet to another." And this comes from the point, of course, of, the opulence. Like King Indra is very opulent. Many demigods are very opulent. Lord Brahma is extremely opulent. I keep thinking Varuna, but it's not Varuna. It's the demigod, the treasurer demigod. And so is very opulent. And his sons are very opulent, right? As we read in the story of Manigriva and like old age, I'm always forgetting names, but the two brothers that got turned into Arjuna trees, and so the opulence can be many times a hindrance on the living entity, as it was in the case of Indra in Govardhan Hill. Krishna kindly removed the opulence from him so that he can remember it. So it doesn't really matter. So as long as King Indra was opulent, but forgetting about Krishna, he was actually in a very degraded state. And so Krishna wanted to, out of mercy, wanted to show compassion to his devotee and remove that from him and remind him of his position. The instruction of Krishna to the Brahmana is very significant. The purport is that a true Brahmana should not be disturbed in any situation. In this modern age of Kali Yuga, the so-called Brahmanas have accepted the abominable position of the Shudras, or less than Shudras, and still want to pass as qualified Brahmanas. So this caste system is still existing in India, but there are very few very qualified Brahmanas. They're more like on this sort of status of being a Brahmana by name only and not by activity. Actually, a qualified Brahmana always sticks to his own duties and never accepts those of a Shudra or one less than a Shudra. It is advised in the authorized scriptures that a Brahmana may, under awkward circumstances, accept the profession of a Kshatriya or even a Vaishya, but never is he to accept the profession of a Shudra. Lord Krishna declared that a Brahmana should never be disturbed by any adverse conditions of life if he scrupulously sticks to his religious principles. In conclusion, Lord Sri Krishna said, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, because the Brahmanas are always self-satisfied and the Vaishnavas are always engaged in the welfare activities for the human society. And of course, the best Brahmana is the Vaishnava Brahmana, because the Brahmana and the Vaishnava are not interchangeable necessarily. Many Brahmanas of this day are not Vaishnavas. They are the best friends of people in general. Both are free from false egoism and are always in a peaceful condition of mind. So, Lord Krishna then desired to know about the rulers, Kshatriyas in the Brahmana's kingdom, and so he inquired whether the citizens of the kingdom were all happy. A king's qualification is judged by the temperament of the people in the kingdom. If they are very happy in all respects, it is to be understood that the king is honest and executing his duties rightly. Krishna said that the king whose kingdom the citizens are happy is very dear to him. Of course, Krishna could understand that Brahmanas had come with a confidential message. Therefore, he said, if you have no objection, I am giving you permission to speak about your mission. Thus, being very satisfied by these transcendental pastimes with the Lord, the Brahmana narrated the whole story of his mission to come and see Krishna. He got out the letter which Rukmini had written to Krishna and said, these are the words of Princess Rukmini. My dear Krishna, O infallible and most beautiful one, any human being who happens to hear about your transcendental forms and pastimes immediately absorbs through his ears your name, fame, and qualities. Thus all his material pangs subside, and he fixes your form in his heart. Through such transcendental love for you, he sees you always within himself, and by this process all his desires become fulfilled. Similarly, I have heard of your transcendental qualities. I may be shameless in expressing myself so directly, but you have captivated me and taken my heart. You may suspect that I am an unmarried girl, young in age, and may doubt my steadiness of character. But my dear Mukunda, you are the supreme lion among human beings, the supreme person among persons. Any girl, although not yet out of her home, or any woman who may be of the highest chastity would desire to marry you, being captivated by your unprecedented character, knowledge, opulence, and position. I know that you are the husband of the goddess of fortune and that you are very kind toward your devotees. Therefore, I have decided to become your eternal maidservant. My dear Lord, I dedicate my life and soul unto your lotus feet. I have accepted your lordship as my selected husband, and I therefore request you to accept me as your wife. You are the supreme powerful, O lotus-eyed one. Now I belong to you. If that which is enjoyable for the lion to eat is taken away by the jackal, it will be a ludicrous affair. Therefore I request you to immediately take care of me before I am taken away by Shishapala and other princes like him. My dear Lord, in my previous life I may have done public welfare work like digging wells and growing trees, or pious activities such as performing ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices and serving the superior spiritual master, the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. By these activities, perhaps I have pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. If this is so, then I wish that you, Lord Krishna, the brother of Lord Balaram, could please come here and catch hold of my hand, so that I may not be touched by Shishapala and his company. That's really so nice. I like reading that. Rukmini's marriage with Shishapala was already settled, therefore she suggested that Krishna kidnap her so that this might be changed. This sort of marriage in which a girl is kidnapped by force is known as rakshasha and is practiced among the kshatriyas, or the administrative, martial, spirited type of men. Because her marriage was already arranged to take place the next day, Rukmini suggested that Krishna come there incognito to kidnap her and then fight with Shishapala and his allies like the king of Magadha. Knowing that no one could conquer Krishna and that he would certainly emerge victorious, she addressed him as Ajita, the unconquerable. Rukmini told Krishna not to be concerned that many of her family members, including other women, might be wounded or even killed if the fighting took place within the palace. As a king of a country thinks of diplomatic ways to achieve his object, similarly, Rukmini, being the daughter of a king, was diplomatic in suggesting how this unnecessary and undesirable killing could be avoided. She explained that it was the custom of her family to visit the temple of the goddess Durga, their family deity, before marriage. The Kshatriya kings were most staunch Vaishnavas, worshipping Lord Vishnu in either the Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayan form. Still, for their material welfare, they used to worship the goddess Durga. They never made the mistake, however, of accepting the demigods as the supreme lord on the level of Vishnu Tattva, as did some intelligent men. In order to avoid the unnecessary killing of her relatives, Rukmini suggested that it would be easier for him to kidnap her while she was either going from the palace to the temple or else she was returning home. She also explained to Krishna why she was so anxious to be married to him, even though her marriage was to take place with Shishapala, who was also qualified, being the son of a great king. Rukmini said that she did not think anyone was greater than Krishna, not even Lord Shiva, who is known as Mahadev, the greatest of all demigods. Lord Shiva also seeks the pleasure of Lord Krishna in order to be delivered from his entanglement in the quality of ignorance within the material world. So there are different demigods, and of course the expansion of Krishna and Lord Vishnu. Lord Brahma is represented. Lord Vishnu is represented as representing the mode of goodness in the material world, sustaining the material universe. Lord Brahma is representing the mode of passion as a creator, and he creates the universe. And Lord Shiva, of course, is representing the mode of ignorance, as he annihilates or destroys the universe at the end of time. I should say at the end of the cycle of the universe. Lord Shiva, I read that already, okay. In spite of the fact that Lord Shiva is the greatest of all souls, Mahatmas, he keeps on his head the purifying water of the Ganges, which emanates from a hole in this material universe made by the toe of Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva is in charge of the material quality of ignorance, and in order to keep himself in a transcendental position, he always meditates on Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Rukmini knew very well that obtaining the favor of Krishna was not an easy job. If even Lord Shiva must purify himself for this purpose, surely it would be difficult for Rukmini, who is only the daughter of a Kshatriya king. Thus she decided to dedicate her life to observing severe austerities and penances, such as fasting and going without bodily comforts. If it were not possible in this lifetime to gain Krishna's favor by these activities, she was prepared to do the same lifetime after lifetime. It's a dedication right there. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that pure devotees of the Lord execute devotional service with great determination. Such determination, as exhibited by Rukmini Devi, is the only price for purchasing Krishna's favor, and is the way to ultimate success in Krishna consciousness. So determination. always in your practice of japa, in your practice of kirtan, in the practice of spiritual life and sadhana bhakti, always with determination, determination, determination. Continue, continue, continue. It's a great message. After explaining Rukmini Devi's statement to Krishna, the Brahmana said, "My dear Krishna, chief of the Yadu dynasty, I have brought this confidential message for you from Rukmini. Now it is placed before you for your consideration. After due deliberation, you can act as you please, but if you want to do something, you must do it immediately. There is not much time left for action." Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 51st chapter of Krishna the Ranchor. And I think we'll stop there, and it's getting really exciting. The next great part is where Krishna actually kidnaps Rukmini, which we will leave for next time. Oh no! I always want I could read more, but we'll get to it. Thank you very much. Let's chant Krishna's names with determination. Hari Bol. Is all for now. Thank you very much. Namaste.